Passionate, driven, enthusiastic, euphoric. This is who we are as entrepreneurs. But how we leverage these incredible attributes to dream and build businesses that scale and grow is what this podcast is all about. Hello, I'm attorneypreneur Josh Brown, and welcome to Franchise Euphoria. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Franchise Euphoria. I am thrilled to have Frank Lunn on the show today. Frank is an entrepreneur, investor, and author of 3 books with over 20 years of entrepreneurial experience. Frank started, built, and sold Kahuna ATM Solutions and is the founder and CEO of Kahuna Business Group, serving entrepreneurs through businesses like Kahuna Accounting and Trepex Group. Frank's passion and mission is learning, living, and sharing the journey of entrepreneurship through life, business, and legacy. He served in the Persian Gulf during Operation Desert Storm and received a Bronze Star for meritorious service. Throughout his 20 years of entrepreneurship, the Kahuna brand has always existed with this mission statement: we achieve our victories through the victories of those we serve. Hello, Frank, and welcome to the show.
Hey, Josh, great to be here. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Well, thanks for coming on. We've known each other a little bit. I'm a big fan of you, and I'm a big fan of your businesses, in particular Kahuna Accounting, which I use and I'm a staunch supporter of. So I'm thrilled to have you on the show so you can talk about that and also your entrepreneurial journey.
Absolutely. In the early 90s, I got started with some ideas, and in 95 launched what is now Kahuna Business Group. And we've had a number of exciting things happen and a number of near-death experiences that fortunately we've lived through, and is something that we want to be able to use to help other entrepreneurs make the journey a little bit easier. It's always going to be challenging, but challenging shouldn't always have to be difficult.
Well, so tell me, how did you come up with the name Kahuna?
Well, it's funny. It actually started as a joke. We were originally starting out as Community Merchant Services, CMS Inc., selling merchant services to businesses. And it was kind of a boring acronym, 3-letter acronym that every business at the time had, some UMS, IMS, BMS. And we got into the ATM business in 1997. And I was kidding with our lawyer at the time. And I said, if this ATM thing works out, it could be the big Kahuna. So as a joke, he crossed off Newco and wrote Kahuna. And it was just kind of, again, as a joke, but I had some ideas for a logo, and we just decided to wear it to a trade show. And we're in Bloomington, Illinois, the center of cornfields and things like that. And it was recognizable as a brand. So that was really kind of our very first thing. It was like, it's the Kahuna guys. And it stuck out. So that was really a reminder to us to always be creative, to figure out what everybody else is doing, and then do some things different to be able to stand out. So that's really how that started.
So from Kahuna ATM, did you then go right into creating the Kahuna Business Group or Kahuna Accounting Services, or were there any businesses in between?
Well, we started out with some real estate businesses and some other things related to managed services. And the ATM business was really good and exciting, but I never really had a full passion for the industry as much as I have for entrepreneurship. And as entrepreneurs, we're a little bit different. We're a little bit bent, and we are slightly delusional, which is good. I mean, you need a just enough touch of delusion to not be put away, but to also to create your own reality, even when that flies in the face of all evidence contrary. And so within that, I was able to surround myself with some really good people, and we were able to develop managed services to support other businesses. And I've never been an accounting person. I've never been a numbers person. So it's really ironic that I'm leading an accounting firm right now. But as I went through this and I made all these mistakes, I mean, even going to the bank back in the 90s asking for a loan, and the banker saying, I can't loan you money because you have negative equity. And I didn't even know what that meant. And so he took a little pity on me and shared that, well, Frank, if you sold everything you had, you still owe money. And those kind of things are hard, but they're valuable. And at the same time, as entrepreneurs, we don't necessarily like the accounting, but as challenge people, we love keeping score. And so really that was the epiphany for me, was realizing that all accounting is learning how to keep score. And you can't win if you don't know how to keep score. And yet we're so busy doing things, we don't always keep track of what are the things that are important as we're keeping score. How do we know if we're winning or losing? And so that was really what motivated me to say, as we're building these different businesses within the Kahuna family that are all independent, but they all work together, to realize that, boy, without an accounting piece and a bookkeeping piece that holds it all together, it's really futile. And we need to gift this to entrepreneurs to make it easier for them to know not only if they're winning, but how to win. And so that's really been an exciting piece for me. Again, if you would have told me 20 years ago that I'd be leading an accounting initiative, I would have laughed in your face.
Well, accounting and bookkeeping to most entrepreneurs either makes you want to go to sleep or makes you want to throw up.
Exactly.
Maybe both.
Right.
But, it's so important. So it sounds to me like in your mind, you just identified a need. You identified a hole in the marketplace and figured out a way to fill it. For those who don't know about Kahuna Accounting, can you sort of, from the ground level up, just describe what it is
Sure.
that Kahuna Accounting does for small business owners?
Basically, we are a virtual accounting team, and we can provide a lot more horsepower and scalability for a whole lot less money and investment. And what I mean by that is when I was coming up through the ranks as an entrepreneur and not knowing what I didn't know about accounting, I made all these mistakes, like with bookkeepers and other things. And even with good people, it's really challenging, because if you don't have the right person, you don't want to necessarily just have the person for the situation you have now, but you want to have the person with the horsepower to get you where you want to go. And there's all kinds of perils as far as ways you can lose money, and I've seen almost all of it. I mean, I've had money stolen from me, I've had embezzlements, I've had other situations where we just didn't know there was a problem because we didn't understand it in the accounting. And so all of these lessons are kind of hard fought and hard won to be able to share to the next generation of entrepreneurs. Well, the other thing that's really happened in the last few years is the advent of the cloud. And where we used to use these really robust and very, very expensive accounting software for our different business units. And at the time, we had a $20 million annual revenue business, and it was kind of complicated. But all of this complication in the accounting made it to where I couldn't really keep my finger on the pulse of the business. I had to wait till the 15th or the 20th of the following month to be able to see how I did last month. And it was really, really hard. And it even made me more disconnected from the financials. And along the way, we have a great team. And I know you know Karen. And Karen, when we started this little quest, we sent her out to say, Karen, we need to find a better software that we can use as our backbone, that's easy, that we can use to help people to get connected with their numbers. And so we thought she would find something more traditional like QuickBooks or something like that. And she looked at a lot of them, and she found this little quirky company out of New Zealand called Xero, spelled with an X, Xero. And we went and started experimenting with it and stress testing and pushing it, and just really fell in love with the software. And it's really easy. People can do it themselves, and it's pretty simple. But at the same time, it's also just simple enough to where to really get the horsepower out of it, you need a really good team. And so that's what we did. And we decided that what we wanted to do is really help people in that initially that what we call A2P transition, the amateur to pro. So, as a lawyer, you're a pro as a lawyer. But when you're first starting out, you may be an amateur in the business part of that. And they don't always teach you those things, whether you're a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, whatever that is. You may be really, really skilled in your profession, but not so skilled or have all the right tools on the entrepreneur side of that. And so that's really what our passion started, or where our passion started, for being able to connect them through the cloud. Well, the cool thing is with the cloud is you can essentially now operate your business from your mobile phone. And it is so exciting to be able to keep score almost real time. And so where again, people like, let's say in the trades where people had to, do the work and then come back to the office and then work through all their paperwork and then get things into the AP cycle and get invoices sent out. And it may be 30, 60 days. Now we have clients that can literally take their phone with them. And as soon as they're done with the job, they can actually get paid right then and there. And it, not only that, but just the ability to have clear sense of how you're doing, whether you're winning or losing. And that is really, really gratifying. So as we're working with a lot of different entrepreneurs, as you know, we started with lawyers of all things, solo lawyers, and it really taught us a lot. And as we branch out into other industries, we're learning from each. And then we're able to kind of cross-pollinate different ideas, things that we didn't know about one industry can apply to others. But really the goal is to keep it very, very simple, and it's to allow the professional, the entrepreneur, to do where their passion is and to focus on what they need to do to deliver really good service and really good value to their clients, knowing that they don't have to be a professional bookkeeper or accountant. And even if they have their own, we can still augment and help them with that to be more efficient. And then as they grow, it's instant horsepower. You don't have to wait and go through a hiring cycle or wait through seasonality. So there's still a lot we're learning from all of this, but it's really exciting. And just even to have, especially people like you that have given us feedback and helped us to improve through this, it's the epitome of being entrepreneurial adapted to accounting, which again just sounds kind of weird in my head, but it's really a fun thing.
Well, you guys have been tremendous for me and my business. And you mentioned Karen earlier. Karen's a rock star. She's, my dedicated accountant through Kahuna, and she's been unbelievable. But your whole team, Mickey, you, everybody else, on that team who I've gotten to know has just been fantastic. I mean, I think I've been with you guys now for at least a year and a half, maybe,
absolutely, yeah.
Maybe a little bit longer. And for those out there who are just kind of trying to figure out exactly what this is, we'll break this down a little bit further, but I think sometimes it's best set up by example. I mean, as an example for me, when I first started my firm a few years back, it was the end of the year and I had to turn in my accounting. At the time I was using FreshBooks, and didn't even realize till the end of the year that it only focused on the expense side of accounting. So trying to get my books to an accountant, a CPA, to do my taxes when you only have the expense side of things is challenging and next to impossible. So it was a total cluster, and it cost me a tremendous amount of money to get things reconciled. Well, then I started working with Kahuna, and the very next year, I mean, every single month, getting reconciliations, getting the income statement, the balance sheets, being able to talk to Karen and say, hey, I'm going to run this charge. How should I run this? Or can you help set this up for me? And then at the end of the year, being able to pass on almost like a packet, basically, that you guys prepare that I just send on to my accountant. My accountant, I think, did my taxes in like 30 minutes last year. And he said, awesome. Oh yeah, he said it was unbelievable. But I'm going to tell you one other thing. Excuse me. That was just really, really cool is, recently my wife and I are looking at a house. Okay. And we need to be able to get the financials for my business very, very quickly. And I can tell you, without using something like Kahuna, I wouldn't have been able to do it because my books wouldn't have been reconciled, and I wouldn't have been able to have Karen help me put things together. But because I was able to do so, we were able to get everything over to the bank and get approval on a loan and all that kind of stuff. So awesome. I think it obviously goes to the business, that's the main core, what you guys are doing, but it infiltrates other areas of the business owner's life. And one of the things that I think is really, really neat, and I'd like for you to just touch on, maybe expand a little bit, as you talked about Xero versus QuickBooks. And some people out there may not even know what Xero is, but it's basically the equivalent to what QuickBooks is. Can you explain to somebody how you guys set up the relationship with the client? Because one thing I was very, very impressed with, and yet I was nervous about before I started using you guys, was, is this going to be a royal pain in the butt for me to get all this set up? And it really wasn't. So I think it'll be important for you to maybe take a couple minutes and explain how you do the setup process.
Absolutely. Well, we've found, as probably you have too, that the three most expensive letters in the English language are D, I, and Y. And, especially like for me when it comes to like construction projects and things. But one of the great opportunities with this cloud-based accounting, and it's just like the phone and the app store with iTunes, things like that, is it's really, really easy to let a lot of technology talk. And it's almost so easy that it becomes complicated if you're not really sure of what you need to do. And especially if you're not trained as an accountant to know what some of the things you need to do to set it up. And so we were finding that although it was super, super easy, and from a monthly perspective, I mean, people could get in, and provide the service to themselves for $30 to $50 a month, but they were finding that it wasn't exactly doing what they needed to do. And so what we decided to do is really just take an approach of really trying to understand what victory looked like to our client. And so just asking the question that if we work together and everything works out just beautiful, exactly as we planned, through all of these things, what does victory look like? And you mentioned before in the intro, we achieve our victories through the victories of those we serve. And that's something that's a pay direct homage to Zig Ziglar, who was my very first mentor in personal and professional development. And he had this saying, you can get everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want.
I love and that
so
saying. Yeah.
Oh, it's just beautiful. It still gives me goosebumps to hear that. And so we really take just tremendous pride in the fact that we achieve our victories through the victories of those we serve. But that kind of predicates that, or it has an assumption that we understand what victory looks like. And we realize that not everybody is the same in things. There's different levels of comfort. There's different levels of hands-on. I want to know every single detail. Or there's just a level of, hey, I just want to go and run and know that no matter how fast I run, I've got a team that can keep up with me. And as we work more and more with entrepreneurs, we're finding more of that ladder of people that say, look, I'm going to test you and I want to make sure that I can trust you. But once I trust you and I'm off to the races, I want to know that you can keep up, so that if I have a 10x business, which I plan on doing, I want to make sure that you're going to be right by my side, not having to lag behind, and I'm going to have to bring you up to speed. And so we went into it with that methodology, and we're still learning it. I mean, it's fluid, but really understanding that what we call that victory process, that navigator process, to understand what does a client really want, what's their ambition, because it's different. If you're looking to just have kind of a side business, and that's a great thing to do, then that's a different type of an outcome than if you're looking to build a big growth business to flip it and sell it.
And that's really where that's probably not to interrupt, but I just want to, your sweet spot's probably not with somebody who's looking to build a side business. Would you agree with that?
Well, we do have, as you mentioned, TrepX, and that's one of the things that we're doing with TrepX. Trep is short for entrepreneur, is realizing that people have to start somewhere, and that transition from amateur to pro. And so we're working on kind of a light version right now, which we call TrepX accounting, which is really a more, it's exciting. We're actually getting ready in the next week to launch that, because it's a great time at the beginning of the year where people don't really have a lot of baggage to try to clean up. And so what we're trying to do there is really just help that entrepreneur who doesn't need a lot, but they also aren't making a lot of money right now. And so they can't afford a big expense and investment, but they need something so that they can, it's kind of like a farm team in a way, where my goal is to be in the big leagues, but I'm going to do a little bit here in the next 6 to 9 months while I'm getting my systems worked out. But knowing again that I can work with Kahuna and they can ramp me up, I can be as big as I want. We have some clients that are paying us $10,000 a month, and we have some clients that are in the $300 to $400 a month, and it really depends on what they need. And in this case, we're looking to keep it under $100 a month for an entrepreneur that really is just looking to have a great system that they can build on. And then when they're ready to take it to the next level, they're already in our system. And it's really just that A2P, the amateur to pro transition, that sometimes it's easy to get stuck on because we get caught up on all of the things that don't relate to making money or adding value to our clients. So focusing on my chart of accounts or my telephone system is not letting me make money. I make money when I can add value to my clients, not do these other things. And that's what we want to do for them, is give them that gift of focusing on adding value to their clients.
Okay. So because that's really interesting. So the TrepX piece of it hasn't launched yet. Is that right? or it's about to
Right.
launch? Okay. So in that,
well, I hope I don't get in trouble by Mickey because, it's been kind of a super secret, but I know that it's going to launch before the 15th. So,
okay, that's really cool because it's interesting.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, as you know, from being a serial entrepreneur, and I know from being in business long enough, and anybody who's been in business understands, is, the ride that you go on as a business owner is not necessarily a consistent ride all the way along. And so oftentimes when you hit your sweet spot, or when you start to make that trajectory up in terms of revenues, it kind of happens all at once. It doesn't really follow a timeline. And so what happens is, in the accounting space, people get all screwed up with that and their numbers and get all screwed up. And you as an entrepreneur get so excited that your business is taking off, your idea is taking off. Wow, there's just something to this. And for whatever reason, it's the last thing you're thinking about until at the end of the year, you realize that you owe a significant amount of more than you have in the bank because you haven't accounted for your taxes. You haven't done the planning. You haven't done those things that are basic things necessary to make sure you keep on track. So I think that's really interesting that you guys are doing something with on really for either the side hustle or somebody who's just getting started.
Right.
I think that'll be quite valuable.
It really is. We found that there's kind of that no man's land where it's hard, where you're too big to be small, too small to be big. You need this, but you're not quite sure how to afford it or where you are. And so that's really what we're trying to do, and really trying to take on a limited number of clients at this level, but really working with them, and then also trying to make sure that as they're on their entrepreneurial growth, that we can also create a community. And that's the one thing that we've really enjoyed about getting to know you. As we've gotten to know you over the last couple of years, you've brought things to our attention of, hey, from my perspective, this would be valuable to me. And I can't tell you how valuable that is back to us, because it's really easy, for us to make assumptions and just deliver what's always been delivered. But if we're not looking at it to say, hey, I'm looking to do this, could you help me understand this through my numbers? And as we do that, that not only helps us help you, but then it helps us help other people too. And that's really the value of a community, learning, living, and sharing that journey of entrepreneurship we're on together. I mean, that's what your podcast does, in being able to dream and build and grow. That is so cool. And yet we're all in this together, and where we can help each other, we're never diminished by helping other people. Well,
I appreciate that. I appreciate you saying all that. And I think you guys truly have done that. I mean, no question about it. You guys have been, without question, one of the best companies I've ever worked with. And that's, and I've worked with a lot of different companies. So you guys have been tremendous. And I think a lot of it goes to that. I mean, I think when you utilize a service like a Kahuna accounting for those type of services, I mean, it is a relationship back and forth. And I can't help but think that one of the reasons that you are so good at that touches on something you said earlier, which you said, you don't know anything about accounting. You've just been able to assemble a good team around you.
Oh,
and you know the business side. It actually reminds me of a funny story. There's this great pizza place here locally called Basbo's, and it's been around forever. And they have maybe 3 or 4 locations. And I was going to pick up pizza one night for the family. And I stopped into their sort of flagship location, their original location. And the guy who was ringing me out at the register, I could tell he was, struggling. He couldn't figure out how to work the register and anything like that. And so I just kind of looked up. I looked up at him with a smile, and I said, "Is this your first day?" And he started cracking up laughing, and he said, "No, I'm actually the owner." And,
oh, that's funny. Oh, that is so funny.
And he said, and I started dying laughing. And then he said, "You know what's even better?" I said, "Well," he goes, "I don't even know how to make a pizza." And I said, "Yeah, but you have great people who know how to make great pizzas." He's like, "Yeah, that's exactly right." So it was just a funny story. But to the point of what you're saying is, when you put good people around you, I think part of that is you have the mindset of wanting to learn more about what you're providing. And part of that mindset is learning, having a desire to learn what the customers really want. And a lot of companies don't have that, but you definitely have that figured out.
Well, I'll give you the secret. If you promise not to tell anybody except for everybody that's listening here, it's really, I'm sorry, that was a little pun or joke, but it really is. Mickey and I laugh about this all the time. It's about embracing ignorance. And I love the idea, where people can be specialists and really be super deep, but I'm not. I'm a little bit of kind of a mile wide, inch deep, and of course I like to call it like being a Renaissance man. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. But at the same time, to know that I don't need to know everything about everything. I just need to know enough to where I can have good conversations. I can have great people that can do what they're really passionate about, what they're really knowledgeable about. So the level of knowledge that Karen and her team with Ryan and Scott and Cheryl and Rashana, Nathan, I mean, they have depths of knowledge far, far bigger than mine. I know enough to where I can have an intelligent conversation, or I can say, hey, I was talking to Josh Brown and this is kind of what he's looking for. How could we do that? And that really helps, because if I was really super proficient, I would have this tendency to want to do it myself, or I'd want to get involved in things that I really shouldn't. And the ability to embrace my ignorance, and I mean that actually in a positive way, to be able to be okay with it and to know that the more ignorant I am, the better that I can learn from other people, then we can deliver something that's not been delivered before. And again, from an entrepreneur, and you put entrepreneur and accounting together, those two don't normally go together well, but our team is finding ways that I never imagined. And if I was micromanaging to do it to my specifications, it would just be awful. I'll tell you right now, it would have been awful. So I'm just standing back and saying, yay, it's like the ant and the elephant crossing the bridge together. And they're shaking that thing, and the ant looks up at the elephant on the other side and said, man, did we shake that thing or what? Well, I'm the ant in this thing. So I'll just tell you straight up.
Well, that's a quality that is a very strong quality, because most entrepreneurs have the exact opposite take on that. They want to try to do everything themselves. And they want to have a complete control over everything. And that's usually what leads to people faltering along the way. So the fact that you figured that out, it seems like long ago, I got to imagine has tremendously added to your success over the years.
Oh, thank you.
Well,
I'm very blessed.
Well, I just want to say it's been great talking with you. I feel like we could talk for quite some time. And I just want to reiterate to those listening that Kahuna Accounting is one of those companies that I use. I've used them myself, like I said, for a year and a half. Staunch supporter. Love what you guys are doing. Love the customer service. Love the accounting services are tremendous. So keep up the great work. And just as you had indicated, you learned stuff from us. I know I'm learning a whole heck of a lot from you guys, and just really pleased about that.
Well, thanks, Josh.
We will certainly stay in touch, and hopefully as you get, TrepX out rolling down the road a little bit, maybe we'll have you back on or Mickey back on to talk about that. Does that sound good?
Oh, absolutely. Love that.
All right. And then the best place to learn about Kahuna Accounting would be kahunaaccounting.com. Is that the best place?
Yeah, it sure is. And if there's nothing up there about TrepX accounting, and again, that's Trep, short for entrepreneur with the letter X, you could just ask in the contact, say, hey, send me information about this. And I'm sure Mickey would be happy to. But I know they're working on that right now.
Well, fantastic. Well, Frank, thanks again for your time. Keep up the great work, and we will certainly be in touch.
Thank you, Josh.
Hopefully this was helpful for you today. If you are in the market for a franchise, I would highly encourage you to check out my free ebook, which is What to Know Before You Buy a Franchise. You can head over to my website at that's INDY franchiselaw.com and download it there for free. And let me know what you think. If you're enjoying this podcast, if you're enjoying the value that you're getting from this podcast, I'd also invite you to go to iTunes and provide me with a rating and review. It always helps for visibility on the podcast. So thank you so much for your support, and hope this episode was helpful to you.
Thanks for being with us today on the Franchise Euphoria podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go to iTunes and provide a review. Also, please remember that although Josh Brown is a licensed and practicing attorney, nothing contained in this podcast should be construed as legal advice, because it is not. The information contained in this podcast is general and educational in nature, and none of it should be relied upon as legal advice. That being said, if you have questions for Josh and would like to contact him, please email him at josh@franchiseeuphoria.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you tune in to our next weekly episode.